Welcome to this, our latest Astley Media Project Positivity webcast, in which we highlight how businesses and individuals are facing up to the challenges created by the current pandemic. Today, I'm joined by one of the first women in history to reach both the North and South Poles as part of all-female teams, described by the Daily Telegraph as one of the top 20 great British adventurers of all time. Anne Daniels knows a thing or two about isolation. Enjoy. Hi Anne, how are you doing?
Do you know, I'm doing really well, Mark. I'm enjoying the downtime.
Are you? No.
Yep.
Well, I was going to say, actually, somebody who's used to wide open spaces, this lockdown must be hell on earth for you.
It is, in as much as, of course, the mountains and the great outdoors are calling to me, and I'd much rather be out there. I mean, if I wanted to sort of whinge, all my work disappeared. A big expedition I was due to go on in October has now gone. The finances have gone, so it won't come back even if we could get together. But what's the point in stressing about that? I've started to look at what I've got. And what I've got is I live in a great part of the world. My daughter's 17. So she's potentially going to be leaving me next year to go to university. So I'm getting to spend some really nice time with her. We're hanging out, we're walking, and I'm just taking time to just be, and that's okay for a while.
Yeah, I think that's been one of the upsides for many people, isn't it? That, being able to spend a lot more quality time with your family. I think that's.
Well, it is, and you don't have to feel guilty. The work's gone and the expedition is gone, so there's no point in me training every day for 3, 4, 5 hours because it's for no end. So I think if you kind of let go of the things you can't control and just deal with the things you can control, and that it works for me. And yeah, I'm enjoying it, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm not. There are a lot of people out there who have lost their work that's not going to come back when this thing ends, which hopefully mine will. And there's people living in flats with small children who are struggling to make ends meet. So, you know, I've got it really well, and I think I need to appreciate that, and I do.
No, that's good. And actually, I was just thinking, despite what I said at the beginning, you actually spent about 3 days locked down in a tent in sub-zero temperatures during one of your expeditions. So I imagine that this is luxury compared to that.
It sort of reminds me of that time, and it's happened to me on a few occasions. That was just the worst, because we were just on a piece of tent material. The temperatures were -40s on the thermometer, and the wind was so ferocious. Even though we were just lying next to each other with material on the end of our noses, we couldn't hear each other. We didn't know when it would stop. We couldn't control what was happening. We didn't know if the ice would break because we were on the Arctic Ocean and come and get us. So it was a tough time, and it's sort of like that. We just had to stop panicking and stop worrying about what we couldn't control, and just look after ourselves because it would come to an end. And we knew that. Stay alive, stay healthy. And this sort of reminds me, it's very different and it's longer, but then our lives are not at risk, hopefully. Yeah, it's a similar process. Don't worry about what you can't control, but work hard on what you can.
Yeah, that's good advice. And a couple of previous guests have said that, particularly sports people, that's one of the mantras they live by. Control the controllables.
Well, and that's it, especially with sports, things can happen all the time. It may be, sports can't happen now and everybody's locked down, or you may pick up an injury or anything might happen. So it's a very changing world, I think, that we all live in. And we've just got to adapt. We've got to show resilience, all those real skills that we know get us through. And the more we can do that, then I think that there's a lot more positives than negatives.
Yeah, and that resilience thing, you spoke at a conference Astley Media organised a few years ago now, and the topic was resilience. And I've spoken to some previous guests about that particular discipline, if you like. What tips could you pass on from your own experiences in terms of being resilient in this current situation?
Um, well, for me, it's not difficult. It's quite a simple sort of, if you will, mindset of when you fall, whatever it is that's happening to you that isn't great, and I'm certainly not going to belittle it because, you know, we're all different, but whatever happens, believe that you'll come out of it, and just preserve your mental state as much as possible. Stay healthy, keep as positive as possible, and when you come out of this, then just know that you will be able to continue. And also, you can take the opportunity while you're locked in to do all those things that you wanted to do and didn't have the time, that might help you when you come out. If you have lost your job, maybe look at a CV, maybe take on some skills to help you when you come out. Because resilience isn't all about just keeping on going. It's about improving, of overcoming obstacles, getting up and then moving forward when you can. So that's it for me, is just look after yourself in the best way you can, and look at what you're going to do when you come out. Look forward rather than it suddenly be a shock when we are allowed to come back out of this. Start now, little steps.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. The previous guest, Sarah Cox, the rugby referee, we spoke about having routine and discipline and all those things which are important. But she also said, don't forget it's okay to have an off day. And it's okay to say, I'm not feeling good about things today. I'm just going to write it off and do the dusting, is what she said, actually. But, you know, horses, courses and all that.
I would agree with that. I think it is all right. And it's all right. I've done it on expeditions when maybe I haven't achieved what I wanted to. I've sat in a corner and sobbed with the desperation of it. And it is all right. It's a human emotion, and we should be full of them all. It's when you dwell on it and make it affect your life that I think it's negative. So yeah, we're full of emotions. So have an off day, have two, but don't have a month of it. Or if you do, at the end of the month, try and come out. Or there are ways to connect with people. You know, I'm connecting with you now, and I'm lucky I do have my husband and my daughter with me. But even if you're on your own, make the effort to do calls either via Zoom or FaceTime or whatever it is. We can still connect with the great outside world. Have a look at positive things on the internet. So yeah, have an off day, but don't let it control your whole life and the whole of this experience.
Yeah, that's great advice. And talking about watching positive things on the internet, I watched your TED talk, your TEDx talk again this morning. And just, you know, I know your backstory, but in a nutshell, for people watching who may not be aware of it, just explain how you got into this business.
Yeah, it was an off day. I was in a difficult place in my life. I was going through a difficult marriage, which was almost certainly breaking down. I'd got 3 very small babies. I had 18-month-old triplets. I'd given my job up, so I didn't know how I was going to survive this part of my life and look after the children. And I saw an advert in a newspaper asking for ordinary women to apply for the first all-female team to walk to the North Pole. Every reason I shouldn't apply. I'd never skied. I'd never been outdoors. I'd got 3 18-month-old babies, and life was a bit tricky. But I think that was the problem. I was in such a dark place. I just thought, do something. And I applied. I didn't expect to get on the team. I didn't even think that far. It was I'm going to apply for this thing, and this will be just something else for me to concentrate on. Anyway, I went down to Dartmoor. I believe over 200 women applied. And at first I couldn't do it. I was really bad. I had none of the skills. But thankfully for me, they didn't get rid of anybody, and they didn't choose the team on that selection. What they said was, all of you go away, and whoever wants to come back can come back for, and I want to term this right, an SAS style. So obviously not what they do, but that kind of abseiling at night, grueling, all those kind of things. And so I went away, and I thought, well, you know, you've got 2 choices now in life, or in this. You either put everything into it and say la vie, or you give up because you're rubbish. And I just put a plan together. I would take the children to the creche, in the gym in the morning, and work on my physical fitness. Friends, I have a lot of military friends. They taught me how to read a map, how to pack a rucksack, how to survive. And over 9 months, that was my life. And I put everything into children training, children training. And I went back down in 9 months' time. The selectors were shocked to see me for all those wrong reasons. But this time I was part of the whole team and the process, and I changed in my abilities. And so at the end of the 4 days, I was chosen. And I got that first expedition, and it was a relay, so I was only away for 17 days. Thankfully, my wonderful parents moved into my house and looked after the children while I was away. But it's there that I just fell in love with Expedition Live, the beautiful Arctic. It's an amazing environment. And I realised this is what I meant to do for the rest of my career. This is it. And from that, we put together an expedition, 5 of those women on to go to the South Pole from the edge of Antarctica. But this time it was us without guides, and we had to plan it, train for it, prepare. In the year 2000, we became the first British women's team to walk to the South Pole. And then I began guiding, and I just wanted to put a team together to do that whole expedition to the North Pole. It hadn't been done by a women's team. You know, we'd done it in the relay, but not as a whole group. So I put the team together, and in 2002, we left Ward Hunt Island and crossed over 500 miles of ice on a moving ocean, dealt with temperatures as -40 and storms and goodness knows what. But on the 1st of June, after 80 days, we got to the pole and the world record. And that kind of set me up there. And I lead expeditions. I work with scientists out there. I've been fortunate enough to work with NASA, the European Space Agency. And I speak for a living about it all. So that I love it. I get to relive all those things and all the skills without being out there.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate, but I wouldn't say lucky, because I did all the work to get me there. But very privileged, very fortunate.
And still one of very few women to have reached both poles as part of all female teams.
Well, that's never been repeated. There still isn't a female team that has gone all the way to the South Pole and all the way to the North Pole. So it's still there. And as I'm getting older, I keep thinking, well, maybe I should retire, and then something else comes up, and I'm not ready yet. I love the arena. I love the challenges, and I don't mind the difficulties. So long may it continue.
Yeah, absolutely. And that TED Talk's on your website, isn't it? You can.
It is. Yes, it is.
It is. And you said at the beginning, Anne, you were due to go on a new expedition. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Oh. Well, there are 2, and who knows what the future holds. So there was a big one in October that we were due to leave, and it was 3 absolutely wonderful, amazing Royal Marines who had planned a trip to follow Shackleton's route from Barcel Bay all the way across Antarctica, all the way, 3,452 kilometres, apparently. And they contacted me and asked if I would join their team. And after a lot of talking, because it had to be right, I wasn't leading it, I was just joining their team. I agreed. So they started our training program. They had the funds, it's their expedition, they got the funds in place, it was all a go, until we all got locked down. And obviously financially, the supporters just don't have that now. So we lost the financial backing, which meant the expedition has obviously gone for now. Got 32 pounds in excess weight I've got to lose, I might say. I don't need it anymore. Every female's nightmare. But I still do have another really exciting project. Again, it's had to be shelved for COVID, but there's a real outlook that will come back. and it's to go out. This I'm very excited about for very different reasons. To go out to the Arctic Ocean, a guy called Martin Hartley, who's an amazing photographer, who's put it together. Again, it's his expedition and he deserves all the credit for it. So I'm part of the team to go out and find what is called the last of the multi-year ice on the Arctic Ocean. So to explain what multi-year ice is, the Arctic Ocean has always been full of it forever and ever. And that's where the ice on top of the ocean doesn't melt completely in the summer. So there's some left, and then the next winter it gets bigger and bigger, and therefore it's multi-year because it just keeps growing. Since the Industrial Revolution, it's just been disappearing. There are now only a few really small pockets left in various places at the edge. It's kind of called the Alamo. And that's going to disappear. Maybe before we can get there, but it is going to completely disappear within 5 years. We're not talking 30, 10, 5 years. There will be no more, or it's predicted, there will be no more multi-year ice on the Arctic Ocean. Still freeze in winter, but it'll disappear in summer months. So our job, and again, we're working with some amazingly fantastic people, we're working with the European Space Agency and all kinds of ice experts. We're going to find it, document it, photograph the hell out of it, video it, but then the main crux of it for me is people with bigger and better brains than I are making small tracker beacons, which they can tell temperatures, movement, all kinds of important things. And we will put these things all over the ice, and then they can track when it goes, when it dissipates, what happens to it. So that is almost the ideal, just an ideal expedition to help some really huge, clever people understand what's happening to the world we live in. And hopefully that it won't go ahead as it was due, because that's got to be March time. That's when it's the time to go to the Arctic Ocean. Okay. We won't be going in March 21 because of the difficulties. We can't train, we can't get the kit together. So hopefully that we may be able to pull back for March 2022.
Brilliant. I will keep us posted on that because that sounds absolutely fascinating.
I will.
I was going to say, actually, ask you about one of the benefits. I think if there's anything, we're trying to look for positives out of this, is the impact it's had on the environment and the lack of pollution.
Yeah, and for me that has been, because I talk a lot about the environment, I've seen it firsthand, I feel really passionate about what we're doing to the world. And we can make a difference, all of us. That's also what I believe. So I find it very frustrating. And this is a great time that we're not using our cars as much. We're using different modes of transport. We're cycling. We're doing this. I now give fewer presentations on IT. How great. I'm not using a car to get to where I'm going to. So not only you can physically see the air clearer, not only is it good for that, but in my real hope is that people will just carry it on. So different practices, different ways to do things. They'll be used to cycling, they'll be used to walking, and they'll know, hopefully, or understand the good they're making. All they have to do now is stop using plastic bottles for water. Small thing, let's get rid of the amount of plastic in the world. And that is also another big thing that is an easy thing to do that we can all do. So yeah, I'm really thrilled, but it will be so sad if when this is finished, everybody goes back to business as usual and not really caring, or goes the opposite way and goes excessive because, we haven't flown, let's all go everywhere and do everything. That would be tragedy. So let's hope lessons have been learned and behaviours changed.
I hope so, because it's the oceans are something you're particularly interested in terms of the impact that we're having on them, isn't it?
Yeah, for me it's the oceans, because I've had a career, I've been amongst them for so long. But what a lot of people know, I'm not saying everybody's ridiculously stupid, but what isn't always understand is that every ocean is connected. So what happens down in all the other oceans, they all mix into each other. There's a circle as they go around the world. But because the Arctic Ocean is the coldest region, it becomes quickly, things happen quicker. And that's almost, whatever's happening up there, is going to be affected and happen around the world. It's just easier to see up there. And that's why I like the Arctic, but I'm also passionate about the other oceans. When I see the pollution and the difficulties of the warmer water, and there's a evolving and emerging science, or more, our oceans are becoming more acidic. So because more CO2 is going into them, it's less pH. They're not ever going to be vinegar. It's less pH, but it's more acidy. So the zooplankton, the animal life, is struggling to form its skeletons and reproduce. So it isn't even just the melting ice, the warmer water. As these things happen, it's the whole ecosystem. It's the coral reefs that can't, this is different from bleaching, so they can't grow and regenerate because the oceans are changing, which then not only affects the seas but also the lands, because they protect the communities from tsunamis, storms. We're all connected, and what we do here affects everybody around the world. And I think when it starts happening to us, that's when we start to do things. But let's do it earlier and stop putting plastic in the oceans.
And I think, as well as not using plastic bottles, there are 3 or 4 other things that you bang the drum for in terms of easy fixes we can all make.
There's a lot, a huge lot. So I'm big on the plastic bottles, and I go to my mileages for food. I used to think, when my income kind of grew a little bit, I can actually afford to go to the butcher, so I have to do that. And I was always one of those that banged the drum and said, look, not everybody can do that, Anne. So, just be careful. And then I have wonderfully found out that going to the butcher's has pulled my meat cost down, because I don't get a package which tells me how much food I've got to have. I buy 9 sausages from the butcher's. Now I buy 7. I buy 9 if my daughter comes, because my husband will eat 3, I'll eat 2, and my daughter eats 2. So just silly things like that. Just buy what you need, don't waste. Look at your food mileage. When you clean your teeth, turn the tap off. I'm not perfect. I drive a car, I do things, we live in the modern world, but I just really do try to do the small things. I cycle if I can. It's good for my health, it's good for money, and it's good for the environment. And so it doesn't, we don't all have to wear sackcloth and ashes. You can still have a really good life, but care for the world around us. Plant some flowers, like the bees eat nectar. There's lots of things. Just be kind to the air and just think about what you're doing. And if we all do that, that's when the magic happens.
Yeah, I think that's what Rob Baxter, the Exeter Chiefs coach, talks about this thing called the power of 1%, which is something that he instills into his players. And he tells them that, if you train 1% harder than the opposition, if you run 1% faster, 1% further, if you go for 1% of those balls you don't think you can win, as a team, that all adds up to a lot. And I guess it's the same principle in terms of us looking after the environment.
It does. And as you know, I'm a great Chiefs fan. Season ticket holder and go, so I love that ethos. And it's the same thing. I like the 1%. I kind of had heard it in the small marginal gains. So just small marginal gains and small marginal things all add up. And like you say, especially when everybody does it, the team does it, and makes a huge difference. And that I'm a great exponent on that. Like I say, whether it's training, whether it's how you tread the earth, or how you talk, or anything, it just all adds to the benefit.
Absolutely. What are you missing most during lockdown, and what would your perfect day be once restrictions are fully lifted? How would that look?
It's not going to the pub as much as I would like to go there. My My triplets are now 27 and they've left me. I have a 17-year-old at home, but so the first thing obviously is just to hold them and hug them and smell them. And then I do want to go out. It doesn't have to be the North Pole or anywhere extreme. I just want to go have a good walk in some hills away, Snowdon, somewhere like that, Scotland, or just get back out there and feel the wind on my face and bivvy out in a sleeping bag, not a tent, a bivvy bag, and just sleep out under the stars. That I can't wait for.
No, yeah. I don't know. That's not my ideal. I do have an ideal.
What's yours then, Mark?
Well, at the moment, the thing I'm looking forward to most, I'm having to sort of self-isolate for my daughter. I'm seeing her but at a social distance, and so I've not given her a cuddle for 2 months. So it's just that really. That's the one thing. Just having, I do see her and I spend time with her, but having a proper sort of, proper daughter and daddy cuddle. That's the one thing that I'm missing.
That is tough. It is tough not seeing them and being able to have. We're animals that are meant to, I think, have physical contact. So, yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been brilliant talking to you. You are available still to do talks via Zoom and what have you, in Microsoft Teams?
I'm getting better at it. Almost professional, one might say.
You always have been. So if people want details, your website is the best place to look, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and just get through to me that way.
And the address is?
Anna and Dan. Oh no, that's my email. It's www.andaniels.com.
Brilliant. Okay, and your TED Talk is on there as well, which is a brilliant watch as well. I enjoy that every time. I've seen it 3 or 4 times now. It's great.
Thank you.
And it's been lovely to catch up. I can't wait to see you in person once we get all this out of the way.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
And I hope your expeditions come to fruition and you're back out on the ice soon.